Do you feel guilty saying no when somebody asks for your help? And you find it difficult to say no?
One day, you'll get found out, so you need to watch this video. One day, you'll get found out, so you need to watch this video. One day, you'll get found out.
Hi guys, I'm Richard O'Leary and welcome to the Mastermind Content Archetype series, and in this second part video on the Caretaker, we're going to take a look at how the unhealthy attributes of this energy surface in your personality. So if you have a habit of doing things for other people and neglecting your own needs, you should probably watch this video and take heed of the advice. Otherwise, you could be making yourself ill. So I'm going to explain why Mastermind Content calls this archetype the Caretaker rather than the Caregiver, which is the name more commonly used in archetypal psychology or mainstream psychology. And I'll explain the key difference that you should know about. So let's jump right in. So the first sign that your caretaker energy is underdeveloped is if you're a people pleaser, but because you want to be liked. The underlying condition of the unhealthy caretaker is an insecurity complex. You basically want to feel useful, valued, appreciated and respected. You therefore have a hard time saying no and end up taking on too much responsibility that actually belongs to other people. And this leaves you with fatigue and eventually burnout. You may even go as far as to sacrifice your own needs or desires because you don't want to appear selfish. For example, if you're sharing food with a group of friends, you will eat the least but pay the most. Now you do this because in your subconscious you feel shame and guilt. You may even be telling yourself the story that people will think badly of you for not helping them. But here's the kicker. By saying yes and constantly doing things for everyone else, you're neglecting your own needs. The unhealthy caretaker fails to take care of themselves. And it's for this reason why I've named this archetype the Caretaker as opposed to the Caregiver, which is the name more commonly used in mainstream psychology. But I have a valid reason for this, and that's because of the definition of the two words. In the Cambridge Dictionary, a caretaker is defined as a person employed to take care of a large building such as a school and who deals with cleaning, repairs, etc. In contrast with the definition given for a caretaker, which is someone who takes care of a person who is young, old or sick. So what we're essentially seeing here is that the caregiver only takes care of other people, a noble trait of course, but when you neglect to take care of your own well-being as well, this energy becomes unbalanced and you're more prone to illness yourself. So it's interesting to note that the word caregiver replaced the word caretaker and has subsequently become part of the collective conscious. So maybe too many of us are giving too much energy away to other people at the expense of our own well-being and quality of life. And the Hungarian physician Gabor found this to be true. Gabor spent 20 years as a family physician and another 14 or so years, I think, treating chronically ill patients. And it was during this time that he recognised that failing to take care of your own emotional well-being can develop into a disease. He said in a presentation titled "When the Body Says No." Certain personality traits and behaviour, ways of behaving that people unwittingly, without knowing it, unintentionally brought the disease on themselves. that wasn't their fault. They didn't know what they were doing. I've left a link to Gabor's presentation in the descriptions below, and I recommend that you watch it because it is fascinating. And in my opinion, Gabor is one of the leading voices in the fight against chronic diseases. And it's because he believes that chronic illnesses could be avoided if people are more aware of how repressed emotions are manifesting as chronic disease. Other studies examining professionals working in healthcare and people that take care of their spouses typically develop shorter telomeres. Now, telomeres are an indicator of lifespan, and studies show that caregivers lose around 10 to 14 years of their life because of the emotional stress involved in taking care of other people. So if you are a caregiver or consider yourself as the archetypal caregiver described in mainstream psychology, then you are exhibiting the unhealthy traits of the caretaker, and that invites stress. People that work in other professions that are synonymous with the caretaker archetype, such as the military and the fire service, also show higher rates of PTSD and depression. So it's worth noting that it's now estimated that between 75 and 90% of all doctors' visits are stress related. And stress is exacerbated in people that project the unhealthy energies of the caretaker. So when you don't take time out for yourself, your stress levels accumulate. Likewise, if you're overly altruistic and helpful to the point that you neglect your personal needs, you're not nurturing your emotional well-being. So this is why I think the caretaker is a more appropriate name for this archetype, because it reminds you that you have to take care of your own needs before you can take care of other people's needs. Think about it. If you don't have your health, then you're of no use to anybody. And it becomes apparent when you examine the unhealthy traits of the caretaker, because you find that the willingness to give up your own needs and personal well-being is actually due to an insecurity complex. Also, people that display the unhealthy attributes of the caretaker archetype have low self-esteem and a lack of self-love. Now, when you lack self-love, you look for love in the outside world. And to feel as though you are loved, the caretaker needs to feel useful, valued and respected. And to feel useful, valued and respected, you create a self-image for yourself as a kind, warm-hearted person that is always ready to help. You live a life of serving others so that people think highly of you, so that they appreciate and respect you. So how do you identify the unhealthy energies of the caretaker in your personality? Well, the principal complexes are feelings of guilt, shame and martyrdom. You also will ruminate about doing things for everybody, but nobody doing anything for you. If you recognize these traits and feelings in yourself, then you are projecting the unhealthy energies of the caretaker. This is a sign that you need to take more care of your own needs, to pay yourself more self-respect, and to overcome an insecurity complex that is hinged on a lack of self-esteem. So let me give you some examples. You can identify this complex if you feel as though you are a burden to somebody by speaking about your problems, or if you have feelings of guilt, or you say no to somebody, or feel as though you're disappointing them in some way by saying no. So this energy also surfaces as paranoid thoughts that people will think you are selfish because you're taking care of yourself. It's because these feelings of guilt are so overwhelming and painful that you do everything for other people but don't ask for others when you need help, even though you have a legitimate need for somebody else's help. But whilst ever you're living with the traits of the unhealthy caretaker as a complex, you may not recognise your motivations for doing things for other people. But what is actually happening is that you have a subconscious program that makes you believe that you have to make these sacrifices in order for others to respect you and appreciate you. However, if this complex is not dealt with, you can develop a neurosis. Now, when you reach this stage where you're constantly ruminating to yourself about doing everything for everybody and nobody doing things for you, it can sink you deeper into despair. Now, the problem is that whilst ever this archetype or these unhealthy energies remain part of your subconscious programming, you will continue to take on more responsibilities for other people and then position yourself as a martyr simply to get sympathy, because this is the only way that you feel as though you can get the love and attention that you crave. When you're at this point, you're heading towards neurosis. So the martyrdom complex is a sign that the caretaker energy has devolved to the point that this energy is basically pushing you towards breaking point in an attempt to bring you to conscious awareness. So all you have to do is say stop and say, is this rational what I am doing? Why am I doing this? What is my underlying motivation? Do I have the time, energy and resources to give up for somebody else? Other signs of neuroticism are emotional manipulation or guilt tripping, chronic worrying and a sense of entitlement. This is something that the German psychoanalyst Karen Horney noted in her book Neurosis and Human Growth in 1970, and Horney wrote, "He must primarily prove himself to his own satisfaction that he is entitled to the fulfillment of his needs. It must feel that his suffering is so exceptional and so excessive that it entitles him to help." So the reason you develop a sense of entitlement is because you do so much for other people and nobody does enough for you. But part of the problem is that you never ask. So when the caretaker energy is underdeveloped, you feel as though you are a burden to others, so you never ask for help. But this can lead you to develop the idea that the world owes you something, and you then get unreasonable expectations from other people. Now at this point, the self-image you have created for yourself as a warm-hearted, all-loving, all-caring individual starts to crumble. Now if your complex worsens, you'll develop a neurosis such as a depression or chronic anxiety. But this unhealthy side of the caretaker makes an appearance because it's trying to inform you that you need to start looking after your own needs and also not to feel guilt or shame about it. You also need to recognise that you bring value to the world without feeling the need that you have to help everybody. And the first thing you need to learn is to take care of your priorities and only help people outside of your circle of responsibility. Only if you have the time, energy and resources. So you need to set some boundaries. You also have to realise that people aren't going to grovel at your feet in gratitude every time you do something for them. A simple thank you is love enough. Now, they will be feeling the love and appreciation inside, even though it may not reflect on the surface. Taking care of yourself also includes how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself, because your inner thoughts have a significant impact on your biology, essentially on your central nervous system and your immune system. At this point of the video, I would like to introduce some esoteric symbolism that will help to explain the definition of the caretaker more clearly. which is why I use esoteric symbolism as a tool to illustrate how these subtle energies shape our personality, but also it helps us to remember, well, the stories and the images in myth help us to remember the complex issues of human nature and how we interact with life. So let me bring up the definition of the caretaker in the Cambridge Dictionary again. It says, a person employed to take care of a large building such as a school and who deals with cleaning, repairs, etc. And as a reminder of the definition for the caretaker, that goes someone who takes care of a person who is young, old or sick. Now in esoteric wisdom, you could say that taking care of a building is synonymous with the body. We say the body's a temple, of course, because it needs taking care of. You have to look after the health of your body by cleaning and repairing. So the definition of the caretaker in other dictionaries, like this one in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is a little bit more specific and says one that gives physical or emotional care and support, which is akin to nurturing the well-being of yourself and of others. But it also says one that takes care of the house or land of an owner who may be absent. While in esoteric symbolism, the home represents your inner nature. That's really the essence that serves one as your inner guide, but it also cultivates your life. It's the subconscious, essentially. The land is your nervous system. You have to take care of the land to keep it fertile and healthy, just as we have to take care of our nervous system to create the life that we want. So just as we plant seeds that bloom into crops, flowers, plants and trees, the information that you plant with your conscious mind and the environment, of course, becomes that's absorbed by your central nervous system, which becomes memory, which is essentially your subconscious, thus your subconscious programming. So whatever you plant requires nurturing to bloom in the way that you want your life to blossom. Now this includes focusing on your goals, desires and obligations. So the energies of the caretaker, therefore, are central to achieving your goals and desires. It is responsible for ensuring that you perform all the daily duties which align with your intention and thereby ushers in new ways of being that bring about a happy and fulfilling life and determine how you experience reality. It's responsible for nurturing your emotional well-being. Now, another thing that we do at Mastermind Content is use Greek mythology to help you recognize and remember which archetypes are surfacing in your life. In the Archetypes tool, each of the archetypes has been assigned with a god and goddess from Greek mythology, the gods representing the masculine principle and the goddess representing the feminine principle, and I will explain more about that in another video when I speak about balance and Gareth Hill's principles of dynamic and static energies. So for the caretaker archetype, I associate this energy with Demeter, the goddess of agriculture, and the sun god Apollo. So Demeter's primary symbol is an ear of wheat, which has health benefits, including improving your immune system, but also lowering blood pressure and reducing risk of some types of cancer. And we also know that agriculture played a significant role in the evolution of mankind. It also involves planting seeds and nurturing them to full bloom until you can reap the rewards from the fruits of your labour. So thus the caretaker is responsible for your personal evolution, your quest for self-development or self-actualization. Now, to bring your goals into fruition, and your best self. You have to plant the seeds of your intention and then nurture them to full bloom, which is your future, through right thought, right feeling and right action. And this is something that the historical Buddha included in his 8 Noble Truths, which is just another example of how ancient wisdom teaches us how to live better and more successful lives, a richer quality of life. So think about this. If you don't take care of your own health and well-being, you'll eventually fall prey to illness and thus become incapacitated. That's the worst thing that can happen for the caretaker. You'll not be able to take care of anybody. Without your health, you are nothing. The masculine principle of the caretaker I have associated with the sun god Apollo, which is a symbol of self-awareness and focus. Now, armed with self-knowledge, it's far easier to adopt new ways of being and drive towards your goals. When you understand the reason behind each action that you have to perform, you're more motivated and willing to carry it out. Now, moreover, you come to know that the most appropriate thing that you do in every moment is attuned to your needs as well as the needs of other people. Apollo was also recognized as an elite archer in ancient Greece, a symbol of focus and concentration. So like the archer, you have to be focused and concentrated in hitting your targets. The taut string of the bow has also been likened to the developed mind, which becomes more adept the stronger it becomes. Also, as the father of Asclepius, the god of medicine in ancient Greece, Apollo also has associations with healing. And so when you integrate the healthy traits of the caretaker, your health and well-being and goals become your focus. You're not distracted by things in the external world because you recognize everything else will take care of itself somehow, without you feeling the need to take responsibility for everybody else's life, which, as you already know, is the scourge of the unhealthy caretaker, taking on other people's burdens. And when the healthy qualities of the caretaker are integrated, you also understand that self-care, self-respect and self-worth have healing powers. Okay guys, I'm going to wrap it up there, but thank you for watching the video right through to the very end. In part 3 I'm going to talk about the causes of how the caretaker energy can emerge. So look out for that, because there's going to be some useful advice in that video on how you can develop the caretaker energy. So I shall see you next time. Bye bye for now.